Yeah, eventually. Morning, everybody. I'm Alan Abrahamson, and welcome to When the National Football League Comes to Barcelona. Thanks, everybody, for being here. On my immediate right is Justin Tuck of the New York Giants. Across from me, Tony Richardson, most recently of the New York Jets. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
These two spheroid objects are footballs. I'm going to ask these guys to pass the balls around before we get started. Guys, you want to do that quickly?
Sure.
For those of you who've never seen a football, in my country, football is king. So what we're going to do today is talk to you about football, and these two gentlemen, and they are gentlemen, on the field they are indeed warriors, but off the field we have the privilege of having them here, and they are class acts in every way. They are givers back to their community. They are champions, and you're going to hear their stories, and we'd like to take this opportunity to thank the National Football League Players Association for bringing them here today. So thanks to the NFLPA and thanks to you guys for making the long trip over. Thanks. We're going to start with Justin. Justin, I'm going to tease Justin here a little bit because he went to Notre Dame. I went to Northwestern. Last two times the schools played football, which was 1995. My school beat his school in football.
Well, I'm going to let you tease today, but if we go back and look at the all-time record,
oof, not so good, is it?
That's probably the only 2 games you won.
I think I might be right. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Both you guys are from Alabama. Tell us a little bit about the Justin Tuck story, and then we're going to talk about your initiative, which is truly inspiring and incredible.
Well, first of all, like you said, I was born and raised in Kellington, Alabama, a very small town. And the entire town is basically my family. So that's come a long ways from small town Alabama. Grew up in a household of 5 sisters and 1 brother, so obviously I had no say-so. It kind of primed me to play football because I was constantly fighting with them all the time, so I had no choice but to be kind of tough. Had the opportunity to, play football, basketball, baseball, ran track in high school, was able to get a scholarship to the University of Notre Dame, met my wife at Notre Dame. Had
Lauren, you want to stand up right here? This is
Mrs. Tuck over here. Had the opportunity to get drafted by the New York Giants.
That's Justin right here on the screens behind you, number 91.
Yes, that's us after the Super Bowl win this year. Great experience. Had the opportunity to get drafted by the New York Giants. Didn't really want to at the time. Coming from small America, going to probably the biggest market in the world. I didn't necessarily know how I would fit in, but definitely I have been very successful there. Have won now my 2nd Super Bowl championship, been to multiple Pro Bowls, and truly blessed to be in the situation I'm in. And, it's an honor to be here and be a part of this panel because it is hopefully the first steps to globalizing our sport, which is American football.
Terrific. Let me back up for just a second. A little bit of housekeeping that I forgot to do. Obviously, there are translations. If I'm remembering right, Jean-Pierre, sorry for messing this up. 4 is Catalan, I believe. Do you have the screen, Jean-Pierre? 5 is Spanish. 6 is French. 7 is English. The translator has asked that those of us who speak American English speak slowly so we can be understood. We'll try to do our best. I will remind all of you that If you would put your cell phones on silent, not off, but silent, so we're not interrupted by rings. And all of you, please take advantage of the My GSFB function. Ask your questions. We have about a half hour with our stars from the National Football League. They'd be delighted to answer your questions. My GSFB, please do ask your questions. I'll go right, excuse me, right into my iPad right here. Jean-Pierre, if you could play the video of Justin's tremendous initiative here. We'll watch that for just a second, please. No sound, huh? Okay, let's work on it. Let's try to explain what happened here.
Well, basically, for 5 years ago now, we started Tux Rush for Literacy. It's an initiative that me and my wife started because, first of all, we're very passionate about children and education. We felt as though literacy was the #1 stumbling block for good education in today's youth. I had the opportunity to partner with Mayor Bloomberg, Mayor Cory Booker, and their staffs to sponsor schools in our initiative to get books and reading materials in the hands of needy kids. We have, to date, raised over $1 million. We've donated almost 50,000 books. In the 8 schools that we sponsor, almost 8,000 kids have received books and reading materials. And how we get kids excited about it, we put on this kind of a book essay contest where we supply kids with selected books and ask them to do essays on what they felt as though the books were trying to teach them, what they're trying to learn from the books. And we basically pick winners throughout all 8 schools, and they have the opportunity to come to a Giants game with us, and we kind of teach them about what the game means to us. And it's a great initiative. It gets them very excited about reading. And what I've learned from the few years we've been doing this is when we first go into a school, these kids are not very excited about reading. And by this book essay contest and their prizes at the end of it, it gets them to, at first, reading the books out of necessity to win the contest. But then we go in, a year, 2 years later, those same kids that, didn't own a book to begin with, now their parents are telling us that, they're reading 20, 40 books a semester. So the initiative is working. We're tremendously blessed with that regard, and we're just going to continue to grow it and continue to try to make a difference because of the platform that God has provided us to promote change.
So people in Europe don't have any idea. Part of the video touches on the horrible events in your home state, both of you. Last year, a devastating tornado ripped apart the city of Tuscaloosa, which is the home to the University of Alabama. The video touches upon that. A tornado is a random thing. When I was 16, a tornado destroyed my hometown. What have you been able to do back in Alabama with your project?
Well, I've been lucky. Had the opportunity to partner with a lot of great sponsors, World Vision, J.P. Morgan Chase, and at first it was us definitely getting funds into the area. We donated $275,000 to the Tuscaloosa area. Just to, the initial point was getting funds in the area, making sure that they could be used for supplies, for water, for food, for backpacks for kids, things like that. And then having the opportunity to go and see the devastation with my own eyes, getting an opportunity to work at the shelters, getting an opportunity to, help people at their home sites. I think it was, obviously it's still, that's been a year ago, and it's still a lot of work to be done there. Have plans to go back there this summer and still continue to help rebuild that town and surrounding areas. But again, it's just something that because of the success I've had on the football field has allowed me that opportunity to kind of do things like this, and it's rewarding. It definitely is.
A famous athlete from Alabama, Charles Barkley, once said that athletes are not role models.
Yeah.
What would you say about that?
I would disagree with Charles. I like Charles a lot. I'm sure Barcelona knows Charles very well.
I'm sure Barcelona knows Charles very well.
After the 1992 Olympics. But I would disagree with him on that one. And I think what he was trying to say is, parents and guardians shouldn't rely on sports figures or celebrities to raise their kids. And I agree with him on that. But regardless if we want to be or not, we are definitely looked up to by kids, by young adults, and I think it's very important to be seen by these kids in a great light, because they're gonna imitate anything that we do. And you've all seen the kid in the backyard with a football in his hand, saying that he's Joe Montana and it's 3 seconds on the clock and he's got to throw the pass to Dwight Clark. Regardless if we want to be or not, they're going to look up to us. They're going to wear our jerseys. They're going to tell their parents that they want to get our autographs. They're going to, anything that we do, they're going to try to emulate. So I'm of the mind that I would rather be seen doing positive work than negative work, because they're gonna flock to you whether you do positively or whether you do negatively. And I definitely want to be one of those guys that set a good example for today's youth and be a great role model, not a negative one.
Okay, we've got the video. It's fantastic. And this is why I love doing this kind of work too. Let's run this. Thank you. Or maybe not. Well, sometimes yes and sometimes no. All right,
Exactly.
Tony, let's try a little you. Tell me a little bit about Tony Richardson.
Well, my journey to the NFL was a little different. My dad was a military man, so I was actually born in Frankfurt, Germany. Growing up playing football, I had never picked up the football that we just passed around. Traveled around the world and finally made my way to Alabama in 1985, and that was the first time I was introduced to the American game of football. So my journey was a little different. It was once I put on my first pair of football pads, I fell in love with the game. And believe it or not, the first time I touched the ball in an actual game, I went an 80-yard touchdown. I'm not sure Justin's been able to do that before, but I went an 80-yard touchdown. And from that point on, I knew that was going to be a great way for me, obviously through my education, but with football as well, that was going to allow me to get a college scholarship and take some of that financial burden off of my parents. And that was
I never had that experience.
So that was one of my main motivations to go to college, have an opportunity to play football, and never knew this journey would go this long.
You have been one of the great success stories in the National Football League. The game is a game of incredible physicality. You've been in the league 17 years.
Yes.
You're in the league 17 years. For people who don't understand, there are roughly, let's say, 75 to 80 plays a game. Describe what it's like in your position. You were the fullback.
Yep.
You lined up behind the quarterback. Your job was opening a hole for the running back. You and Mr. Tuck might have met a few occasions. What was that like?
It's the equivalent to what they say, it's a collision from a fullback to a linebacker or from a fullback to a defensive end is equivalent to running into a garage door with the door closed. And if you look at my body stature, I'm 240 pounds.
That's roughly 109 kilos for those of you who think that way.
And Justin is 270.
That's 120.
So do the math. I will lose that battle 90% of the time. But I was fortunate to come into the National Football League, and my route to the NFL was a little bit different. I went to the University of Auburn, which was about 30 miles from where Justin grew up, and I was an undrafted free agent. So the average career in the National Football League is 3.5 years. If you're not drafted, your average career is probably 1 year. So, but I was fortunate enough to go to the Dallas Cowboys in 1994, and they had just come off back-to-back Super Bowls. Obviously, Justin now has 2 Super Bowls. I don't have any, but I have to live vicariously through my buddy. But having an opportunity to go to Dallas in 1994 and seeing what a true professional looked like was very important and helped me throughout my career. Having a guy by the name of Emmitt Smith, who's now the all-time leading rusher in the history of the National Football League, he taught me how to take care of my body, both in season, out of season, the importance of getting into the community, giving back. Obviously, as Justin talked about, the importance of being a role model because, like you said, there's kids that they look up to you, and they look up to you to do the right things. And if you do something right, they'll follow you. If you do something wrong, they'll follow you as well. And so I was very fortunate to have those guys around me.
Let's talk about, Justin's talked eloquently about making a difference.
Yep.
You've made a huge difference in the life of a particular young man. Would you tell everybody that story, please?
Yes, it was 3 years ago. I met a young man by the name of Tyler Nelson. It was actually at a Super Bowl. It was Arizona Cardinals versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Super Bowl was actually in Tampa. And we have a foundation which is called the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and it's a lot of young kids who are terminally ill, and they have one wish, and it's sometimes their last wish, and it's their dying wish, and they want one last wish to be able to, maybe put a smile on their face. Well, this young man's wish was to have an opportunity to meet NFL players and to go to a Super Bowl. So his wish was granted, and we were in a room of about 25 kids. I was myself and about 2 or 3 other players. And it was something about when you just come in contact with certain people, you see a smile on their face, you see a twinkle in their eye, and that was Tyler Nelson. And initially when we first made eye contact, really it was love at first sight. And I had an opportunity to go to Dallas where he was actually from. His mom, allowed him to go to dinner with me. And a great story, we were sitting at dinner, and it was his brother actually is at Auburn now, and we were sitting there having dinner, and he, as Tyler would, he smiled. He said, "Mr. Richardson, thank you for dinner, but, what is my budget for dessert?" And I said, "Tyler, you know what, buddy, whatever you want for dessert, I'll take care of it." And so since then, when I met him, he needed a liver and a lung transplant.
A liver and a lung.
Liver and a lung.
With cystic fibrosis.
Cystic fibrosis. And so through our relationship, I was able, through my contacts in New York, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, a lot of papers in New Jersey, just really getting the word out, not only about his story, but how important it is to be an organ donor. And we've now done speaking engagements together, and Tyler's actually written a book. He's been on Nickelodeon, and it's amazing that you see a young man who is a day away or 2 days away from not having his life saved, but trying to help other people. And so he really taught me a lot about service and giving back. But the great part about the story is a week ago, Tyler received his organs, and it's a blessing, and God definitely granted our wish.
Sure. Jean-Pierre, is the sound working? Do we know? If the sound is working, we have a video of Tyler speaking. It's a tremendous video. If it's working, I'd love to be able to play it. If not,
Something's working.
Something's working there. Yes? No?
Maybe.
Maybe? If not, oh, got it. Back to you. Back to you. Okay.
Justin Tuck of the New York Giants has been a frequent visitor to Middle School 203. Today, however, is our time to give back.
I was really upset when I found out about all the destruction. I cannot imagine what it would be like to go through that. After seeing the damage on the news, I'm really excited to be able to help out. My friends and I hope that these school supplies that we are sending you can help you get back on track. I know it's not a lot and will not help the damage to your homes, but hopefully it can bring a smile to your face.
Read, understand,
Succeed, hope.
Yeah, I've seen that video a lot of times now. It's still really good. Jean-Pierre, is the video of Tyler up and queuable now, please? Because it's terrific to watch this young man speak. Just to understand the difficulties, he was on the waiting list for the lung and liver transplants for him. I think he went into the hospital in the fall of 2010, am I correct? Mm-hmm. And he just last week got his transplant. Yes. And you stood by this young man this entire time. So just to ask the obvious question, Tony, and this is, I ask you in the gentlest way possible, you didn't have to do this. Why was this young man such an important part of your life?
Well, I think it was, like I said, when I met the young man, when I met his family, I saw the twinkle in his eye and the fact that he, at a young age, was thinking about someone else and not himself. So for me, once I built that relationship, I've spent, since then, his last 2-3 birthdays with him. I've been in the hospital with him. I've seen the things that, as a young man, he should not have to know how to do at 10, 11 o'clock at night when it's time for him to go to bed, to put on a pack that he has to sleep in that has all his medication and all these things that have to run through his lungs during the course of a night. When you see that, it's different from, and Justin and I have both had this experience where we can write a check and we know that money is going to a great cause. But when you can have one young man and you say if everything that you can do, you can help save this young man's life, then that's when it became real. And so there's so many times where, I might have a bad day and Tyler's calling me, he's picking me up. Or I'm driving down the road and I'm thinking about the difficulties and things that I had to deal with in the course of a day. And then I look at Tyler's picture and realize that, you know what, my problem is nowhere near the same problem that Tyler and his family has had to endure over these, last pretty much his entire life. And so for me, it was a relationship that's deeper than just writing a check. This relationship about a young man, and I wanted to see him be able to live and be able to do the things that, Justin and I have had the opportunity to do, and to be able to travel to some of the places that we've been able to travel, and to be able to have a normal life. I think that's something that every young man, young lady should have that opportunity to have a full life. And so for me, it was the right thing to do. His parents thank me all the time, but I thank him because he's really made a tremendous difference in my life. And I love that young man. He's, we've talked about everything from girls to football to life and things that he aspires to go to Auburn, which is a phenomenal school. And he aspires to be a pilot one day. And I believe and I trust and I know that's going to happen for him.
This is why I have loved covering the National Football League, and everyone who knows you to be a class act. And that's why I always tell people that football players are exceedingly intelligent individuals. It takes a lot of smarts to play this game. Is this video ready, Jean-Pierre? I'd love to be able to get the video of Tyler talking. It tells everything about him. Is it ready, Jean-Pierre? There we go.
Testing. Works. Good morning. My name is Tyler Nelson. I am 16 years old, and I am a CF patient waiting on lung and liver transplant. I was diagnosed with CF at the age of 2 days old, not 2 years. So I've basically been dealing with this for quite a long time. It's been rocky the past, say, 3 or 4 years. At first I was a regular kid. I did play sports. I was going to school. I was doing the regular things that kids normally do. I played sports. I played basketball, track, and football for. How old are you when you're in 8th grade? Like 13? Okay. Sorry. So I played sports for about 12, no, 8 years, I'll say. My main sport is football. I love football. I know a lot about football. But I retired in the 8th grade because the doctors told me. They said, no, you're done. I have an enlarged spleen, cirrhosis of the liver, and then I just was diagnosed with CF-related diabetes also. So that basically just cut off the sport. So I found another major in, I want to be a pilot. That's what I want to do. Once I get these transplant, I want to explore the world. I want to know what it's like to be kind of close to normal again, not having to take all these medicines, just be a regular kid again. I want to see what that experience is like. I want to thank Life Gift for bringing me out here because a lot of people, I find it important to register to donate your organs and tissue because, like myself, there are a lot of kids in need that people don't even know, and it would just be a blessing if I got a lung and liver today. I almost had one recently, 2 weeks ago, last Thursday. They had the liver, but they didn't like the lungs. But you know, we're still praying and still hoping that I get the liver and lungs.
Okay, let's switch gears and ask you a question from the audience, and then we're going to show some football highlights here. Well, why do you guys think, a question from the audience, why is American football so limited to an American audience, the rules, the global understanding of the game, when looking at the fantastic show it represents for the whole world? It's a question I've often wondered because, you know, for us, it dominates our culture, no question.
Well, one, I think the rules of the game, and maybe we might be able to get into it today if possible. I think the rules are a little difficult sometimes for certain countries to understand, and different from a game like basketball where you understand that it's the ball, you shoot it in the hole, 2 points, 3 points, 1 point. Our game is a little bit different. I get criticized from people who grew up playing football, which is soccer, that our game is too slow. So I think, you know, obviously we had an opportunity to go to a football game last night and saw Messi, 5 goals. And you can see that. You can follow the ball. You can see the techniques and the things that it takes to get that ball in the goal, where our game is a little bit different. That's my belief.
Also credit to the fact that it's not an Olympic sport.
Yep.
It's not a sport that has been pushed throughout the entire world. I think it's a great sport. I think it's a sport that you know, has a lot of potential in those areas. But you know, I think the NFL is doing a great job of slowly trying to figure out ways to broaden itself by us playing games. I had the opportunity to play a game in London. We're going to continue to play games overseas and possibly even, you know, make it more games overseas. But you know, I think it has a lot to do with you know, just the fact that you know, it's not an Olympic sport. It's not seen around the world as much. Whereas, you know, basketball, baseball, those are sports that are easily picked up in other countries because of it, the fact that, you know, they've branched out. So I think this is us branching out and playing in different countries will bring more of the visual to the game, and hopefully it'll help be the beginning of it starting to be a world game and not just a U.S. game.
I say once you understand the game, you know, there's an old cliche, it starts slowing down. You've heard this a million times. Once you start understanding the game and you start seeing it for what it is, it's an intricate ballet, especially on the line where you play, and it's the greatest game ever invented, I think. It's fantastic.
It's pretty good, and for all the people that think it's slow,
it ain't slow.
Not at all.
I would love to invite you to have a front row seat on the field and see how slow it is.
The closest I've ever been, of course, since I'm 5'11", 152, and you're 6'5", 268, and ain't no way I'm going to mess it up with you, is on the sidelines. And I tell you, the ferocity of the game on the field is something to behold. Jean-Pierre, let's play the 3 minutes of the highlights so people can see for themselves on the big screen just what an NFL game looks like, please.
Second down and 10. Blitz. Down the sideline. Nelson with a leaping grab, and it's good. Great body control there by Jordy Nelson. You know, initially from that spot right there, he says no way he's going to be able to get his feet in bounds. But yet he was able to.
And again, it's a deep ball. It's Marshall. And Marshall has the catch and the touchdown. It seems stupid. I'm just trying to stop the touchdown. What a catch by Brandon Marshall. With the wind in his back. Hang time of 4-2. Here comes Quick. Oh, what a block. Quick screws up. A.J. Eads into next week.
Good high kick. Peterson looks around. Backpedals, takes it at the 2. Trying to get outside. Turns it upfield. Patrick Peterson gets by the punter. Peterson may go all the way. He will. Patrick Peterson wins it for the Cardinals. Now first down for Tampa Bay. They needed that completion to Ben. And now they get a good run from Blunt. He won't go down. LeGarrette Blunt, what a run. One of the best of the year, LeGarrette Blunt all the way, and he broke tackles at every step. Looking for Cruz. And it's caught after being tipped, and Cruz to the end zone. Eli Manning just simply threw that one up. Said a prayer.
First and goal back at the 15. Lynch not going to get anything. Well, maybe second after. Comes out the back of it, and he's in. Touchdown. I don't know how he came out the backside of that pile. Skittles time. You're never too old for Skittles.
Top 10 plays on SportsCenter you do. Man, you just watch the concentration. The ball does not hit the ground. Yeah, that should make a top 10 highlight.
For Bone. Lazy defends. Oh, he got the ball. And that is as good a touchdown reception as you will see.
Wide open now. Today into tomorrow and the entire week. It's one thing to leap over a guy. It's another thing to finish the flip on your feet.
Highlight of the night. Coming up next.
So we have 2 minutes before you guys have to go, but let me just ask you, and apologies, Tony, you've won the Super Bowl twice. The last time, just a month ago, probably the key play in the game was when you took down Tom Brady on the. He'd completed 16 straight passes, and after that he was 7 for 7. What's it like? What's it like to win the Super Bowl?
Sorry, Tony. It's like, I guess the only thing I could say that everyone here would recognize is like winning the World Cup, and I've had the opportunity to win too. In America, it's recognized as the biggest. Not only the biggest game, but probably the biggest event in American history. You know, it's amazing. And didn't have an opportunity to do it in New York, which is the biggest media market. You know, we had a parade and we had almost 2 million people on the streets. You know, it's tremendous. And you know, I've been tremendously blessed to be a part of an organization, a team that you know, fights for each other, and that's the only way you win it in this league because there's so much parity in the league. All year we wasn't necessarily the best team, But one thing we were was a team. We played well together, and that's the reason why we was able to win the Super Bowl. And I'm blessed. It's tremendously rare. I've only played for 7 years, and I have 2 Super Bowls. And I sit across from a guy that played 17 years, which I don't think everybody here understands how remarkable that is.
It's remarkable.
17 years is when the average career is 3 years. To play 17 years is unbelievable, and he hasn't had the opportunity to do it. So I'm tremendously blessed and humbled to be in the position I am in because you got Pro Bowl players, you got Hall of Fame players that have never had the opportunity to even be in a Super Bowl game, and I've won 2. So words really do not describe the intensity, the feeling that you have when that confetti flies and they give you that trophy, and you know that you're the best at what you do.
I'm blessed and humbled to have shared the stage with you gentlemen this morning. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.